Okay guys, it's been a great trip in San Antonio, but all good things must come to an end. This is the last stop on the trip. This is the Japanese tea garden. This was the surprise I was telling you about. This is my favorite place in San Antonio. My mom took me here the first time I ever went to this city, and I basically fell in love with it. A little bit about the history of the place. It was formed in a former rock quarry. It actually got called the Chinese Tea Garden during World War II, during internment. This old sign underneath this banner says Chinese Tea Garden. They changed it back to the Japanese Tea Garden after World War II, and invited all the former descendants of the original architect. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So yeah, built in a former rock quarry, I think in the 1920s or 30s. This place is my favorite. It's beautiful today. There's a full service tea house. This cool pagoda shelter. And then here's the gardens. Let's see. As I said before, I was kind of glossing over it really quickly whenever I was on their way in. But anyways, this was built in a former rock quarry, which is why it has that big pit kind of style that you can see. This is an old observation tower and deck that they have. It was built in a former rock quarry by a Japanese family invited by the city of San Antonio. It's located in Brackenridge Park, which has a golf course, a park, a zoo, a museum. There's a ton of stuff to do over here. During World War II, whenever anti-Japanese sentiment was super high during internment, the city changed the name from the Japanese Tea Garden to the Chinese Tea Garden, and had that huge wooden sign built at the entrance to commemorate the new Chinese Tea Garden. But then they changed it back. I think it was in the 70s or the 80s when they finally recognized kind of all the injustices that happened during the war, and switched it back to the Japanese Tea Garden, and it's officially dedicated as that ever since. I think they invited, like I mentioned, original descendants of the original architects of the garden to come kind of rededicate it. Here's the pagoda at the top of the gardens, and then the full service tea house. They do boba teas, all sorts of yummy stuff in there. Obviously pretty popular. This trail down here is kind of like a nature trail, and then this, like I mentioned, is the main part of the gardens. A lot of guys watering today. I feel bad getting in their way. Oops. Cool arched bridge. So yeah, every time I've come to San Antonio since my mom took me here that first time, I've pretty much been forced to make a stop here. Even this trip I really didn't even plan on coming, and my mom still called me the other day and said, Oh, you have to go. It's gonna be so pretty in spring. She wasn't kidding. Since it's in a former quarry, it's in this big pit kind of. There's a better view of the pagoda. You can see how it's really built up over the rest of the gardens. Ton of little trails that kind of meander all the way through. Too many photo shoots going on, you can't even walk through. That's how it always is here. It's usually graduation photos there, or weddings. Huge waterfall right here. So yeah guys, there you have it. Japanese tea gardens, famous location in San Antonio, as evidenced by a large amount of people checking it out today, including me. Gonna kind of snake our way back towards the entrance here. Graduation photos, just like I said. But yeah, Japanese tea garden. I knew this was going to be the last stop. This is on the way out of town. This has been an amazing trip. I totally needed this. Needed a little vacation, get out of town. So I'm gonna hit the